Welcome back to Career Center. I'm Kimberly White, and continuing the conversation with my guest, job search coach, Bryon Brandt. Thanks, Bryon, for staying with us. So we were talking about, before we went to break, why someone should join a job search work team. And you were talking about like kind of this resume round robin thing that you do. That goes back to really people being able to, they really need to be able to step outside of their comfort zone, because you have to be open to critique when you're in job search.
And that's sort of life too.
Yeah,
and that if we're willing to listen to others, one of my mentors had said that if we see the world as it is, not as we are. So that's a problem. So if one person says something about you, it's them. If two people say something about you, maybe it's you. If three people say about you, it's you. And so when we do this resume round robin, you'll probably get as many different opinions as there are people looking at it.
Right.
But something along there's going to be a theme that shows up. So it's more worth listening to.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned mentors. I think it's very important to have a mentor. Who are your mentors?
Well, in the job search area, to name two, Bruce Bixler and Bill Burnett. And so Bruce Bixler is a LinkedIn expert. I've been to several of his presentations, because nowadays, when you put in a resume, people are going to look at your public persona, your professional one, but then they're going to check out Facebook too. And so do you put things there that look professional or things that you don't want the job searcher to look at? And so one of the lines that I like from Bruce Bixler, as a coach, as a teacher, that people will ask him questions, but at a certain point, I know he's going to say, I'm not going to enable you. Some things you have to learn yourself. And then he gives a really good hint on how to do that. So as a leader of the job search work team, to make sure I'm not enabling things that aren't positive for people.
Do you talk to them about the importance of having a mentor as well? Is that part of your conversation at all?
Yes, and it can be mentors that you're physically in the presence of, or just how you keep on learning. One of the job coaches says you should read 24 books in your job search. And so what are so that you sound intelligent, you have more ideas, how you're showing that you're keeping up. So it can be someone who you're physically interacting with, or how are you learning from them? Things like this, podcasts.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about job search. So before you get that interview, because that's really what everybody wants, they have to have a resume, not just a, regular old resume. They need a great resume. Share some tips on that.
So my first tip on the resume is that you can write your own resume, but you can't write your best resume. And the things that...
I like that.
And the reason why is that the things that people look up to us as gods and goddesses for are the things that we do every day. They seem natural to us, but they're not natural to other people. And so to me, to do your best resume, it's really important to talk to your friends and coworkers and say, why do you like me as your coworker? What is it that you most admire about me? And even though the resume is for finding a job, talking to your friends, you're going to find out what the soft skills are that relate to the job also.
So hopefully you're hearing a consistent message, right, when you're talking to people, because then that, when you talk about branding and stuff, that means that your brand is kind of on point, on target, because the message is somewhat consistent. Would you say? Yes,
and so along that, consistency, that we still recommend that when people have a brand, that, going through the networking, that a lot of us, as we get older, there's a lot of hats we've worn and can wear. And so we go to talk to people and want to tell people about all those different hats. But then the people in networking, Bryon does all these things. He's really good, but they can't say a message. And so if you pick one of those messages or can find a theme to it, it makes it easier for the people you've met to repeat that story. So my card says CEO, Chief Encouragement Officer. And so I'm known around the world for helping people achieve more than they ever thought they could. And whether it's running oil refineries safely, or whether it's helping people in a job search work team. So that's an example of my brand, and there's a consistency there.
Chief Encouragement Officer. I like that. Okay, so you got the resume. even before the interview, I mean, you're getting that resume together because you want that interview, but kind of in between, you got to do that networking. And we've talked a little bit about that. What are some other tips you could share to folks who feel a little uncomfortable with networking?
Well, the more you can be uncomfortable, the more you're going to be comfortable in the job that you want. And so the world is changing, and so how are we keeping up? I had one job where I was in Abu Dhabi, and I had to inspect this oil refinery, like brand new process, tens of millions of dollars, and the design book stood this high. And I remember getting to the job the first day and looking at that and like, how am I ever going to do all of this? But this book of design specifications was put together with screws through it. And I took apart this book and made it into 3 different books. And, was this a mental trick? I still had the same amount of work to do, but now I had 3 jobs that all looked doable.
Right.
And so that whatever that big change is, how do you break the really scary big change down into like, well, let's just push it this much. And so it's a life skill, it's a job finding skill.
And people have to really be intentional about that. Yeah, I really love that analogy you just gave. That
and to me, one thing that's really important is that most of us are never going to see the person that we're networking with at work. And so we're going to extrapolate from what we do see to how they think they might be, at work. In our job search work team Monday, one man, he'd said he was going to put together a portfolio. And at the meeting, we asked him where it was, and he said, it's at home, I'm not interviewing today. And so what I've learned about him, he's not always prepared.
Yeah.
Another man said that he's got his backpack with him everywhere, whether he goes to church, whether it's a job search meeting or going to the grocery store, he's always prepared. So that demonstrating those important skills, all the time is important. So we know who we can recommend you to. Right,
right. And you always have to be on your A game, even in a networking meeting, right? Because you never know. All right, so resume, they've networked, and hopefully that's now gotten them an interview. How does someone relax? Because interviewing can be that scary thing kind of out there. What are some tips to get people to relax?
Well, I'm a big fan of Liz Ryan.
Okay.
And she's got a 2 million followers on LinkedIn because she really says a lot of good things. And one thing that I like that she said to relax in an interview, when you're going into the interview, you're going in there as an equal because you're interviewing them for fit as much as they're interviewing you for fit. And if you go in there as an equal, you're going to breathe better, you're going to relax, and you're going to present better.
What are some other things you gotta, I think we talked earlier about the questions piece, but you gotta be prepared. You gotta do your research. You gotta do all those types of things in an interview.
Well, another of the mentors was, Bill Burnett. And I really like his book, The Peak Interview. And so a common mistake made in interviewing is that we think we have to go in there and brag. And that's a baseline. But beyond that, they have to like you. And so how do you get them to like you? And so he's got 3 questions that set that up. And one of the first ones is that when you've decided I really am the best candidate and you've hired me, and a year from now you're writing my review and I've had a stellar year, what are you writing in that review? And so one of the reasons for that is to make sure you're talking to what's important to the person you're interviewing with. With the legality of so many things now, that job description they put out may not have been the most current one, but it was the one that legal approved. And so or maybe HR put it together, and so there's multiple points, but to the hiring manager, these are the ones that are important. So you want to make sure that you're talking to what's important to the hiring interview. I applied for one job, and it said I was the 114th person applying. And so how do you, stand out? It can be a branding statement. One man, he was a sales manager. Well, there were lots of those. But through his outplacement firm, they said he should call himself a revenue alchemist. And so now suddenly sales manager, say revenue alchemist, I almost want to, you know, call this person in just to test him. And so he got the job. There was something distinguishing. And so one of the ways, the second question in the peak interview to distinguish yourself is that I know you're going to have, you know, goals for me, but one of my goals is always to make my boss look good. What can I do to make you look good? And so now suddenly, like, nobody else has asked, unless they read the peak interview, haven't asked that question. So like, I'm liking this person.
That's good. Yeah, that's some really good points you're bringing out. So clearly you enjoy doing this. What else motivates you as you are going through kind of working with clients and stuff? What are some other things? Well,
share your strengths and learn from others is one of my, core beliefs. And that I've had people, show up in my life that without my having to ask them anything, they gave me input that I needed. And so that, so the people I respect and trust the most are people that ask and answer the questions I didn't ask but should have. Then I know they're my trusted advisor. If they're only going to answer the questions I ask, they're functionally, only my servant. So to show up in the lives of others to help them achieve more than they ever thought they could is what drives and motivates me for this work.
Yeah. Very good. So closing thoughts around job search and...
Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. The feedback can be so poor, and just believe in yourself. And that what are you average everyday thoughts because it's just who you are, or reasons that other people look up to you as gods and goddesses. And there's a company out there and a person out there looking for what you bring to the job market.
It's so hard to do, though, right? When someone is, when you're in that job search, it's hard to kind of try to have those positive thoughts, but it's so important to do so.
That's one advantage of the job search work team. As much as we're there to hold you accountable, did you do it? We're there to, one man, because he couldn't do something, called himself a moron. But he had these great skills, but because he couldn't do that, he was more focused on that than this. And so we're there to, as much as it's an accountability group, it's a support. I don't want to say a support group, but it's there to help people persist through the lousy feedback system of the job search.
And I think at the end of it all, people need to realize that there is an opportunity out there. Well, to your point, there is a company out there, there's an opportunity out there for them, and they just have to stay motivated and encouraged and, be connected with groups that'll help them.
And then we're there to help, and there's other groups like that out there, or get Orville Pearson's The Unwritten Rules, and to have a good job search work plan.
Yeah, very good. Bryon, this has been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. I am so glad you joined me on this month's edition of Career Center. And to our television audience, if you are in job transition or looking for a job search or professional career advice, visit the Community Career Center at 1815 West Diehl Rd, Suite 900 in Naperville, or search us on the web at communitycareercenter.org. Thanks so much for watching.